What we have going on the Jeep today is the Synergy sector brace bracket. This is the actual kit. I will say this thing is very well put together. These welds are unbelievably good. The powder coating is absolutely perfect. It's like a thing of beauty. But we're going to be installing this on the Jeep today to tighten up the steering a little bit. We haven't had a tremendous amount of issues with the steering, although it is somewhat, it's loose. It kind of wanders here and there. It's not overly terrible, but we definitely want to firm it up a little bit, so I figure this is going to help. We're going to be using this in addition to the Metal Cloak 2.5-inch lift that we put on. So, hoping for the best. Let's get started. Okay, what we've done so far is disconnected the track bar from its bracket. We've disconnected the sway bar link from the mount. We have the axle supported right now. Next, we're going to get this 42 millimeter nut off. See that little nut right there? Now, 42 millimeter nut. That was a pain. We needed that, a torch, to get it off the stud up here. I'm not sure. Doesn't look like, well, possibly, if there was any type of Loctite thread locker in there, or it was just threaded on the wrong way. But we basically had to use the breaker bar the whole way out to get this thing off. This is the new nut that's going on, and this thing threads on very easily to the stud now, the way the other one should have come off. So I don't know if it was cross threaded on there or if it was Loctited on there, but regardless, it took a while to get that thing off with the shorter breaker bar. That is a non-ratcheting breaker bar. If anybody's looking for a breaker bar, I would recommend getting a ratcheting head as opposed to just a swivel head. That'll be my next tool purchase, I think. So now what we're going to do is apply some of the included red thread lock to the nut that is provided. Install this. They want it torqued down to 182 foot-pounds. Okay, got the nut on right now. It's not torqued yet, but the flange side stays down. So keep the flange side down, and then this other piece is, once we get the bracket on over here, this other piece goes over that flange, kind of like that. So put the flange side down. Okay, next step, everyone, is to get 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts removed from the steering box. Steering box will drop a little bit. Don't be surprised. It won't fall out, but it'll drop a little bit. You may have to droop the suspension a little bit in order to be able to get your socket or extension or whatever you're using into these bolts that are near the coil. Yeah, go ahead. All right, now we're gonna just have to droop the suspension, I believe, to get to that that last bolt in there. I'm gonna take that off and be right back. All right, I forgot to mention we have 2 different size bolts. These longer bolts go in the front holes, which are gray. The black bolts will go in the back holes. What you need to do is, when the instructions say to put in the longer bolts first, it'll be a little easier. Just get them started. Then you can see from under the Jeep where it needs to align with the steering box, but you have to press the steering box up a little bit, get the bolt aligned, and then you just put it in. I'll get that top one started before we secure them down, because I think we might need to adjust how it's laying. Yeah, you might have to pivot the steering box a little bit to get that top one in. Just gonna make sure all these align before we secure them down. That one's in, and that one will hopefully be in. All right, so after you get the 4 bolts in, just screw them in, but leave them loose. You're not going to do anything with that as far as torquing them down, so just leave them loose. All right, so what I'm finding in my unique install here, I just threaded this in to maintain the alignment of the bracket to the Jeep. It was very difficult to get in. I had to put a kind of a socket extension and get it aligned. I'm also finding that this bolt needs to go in here, but as you can see, the hole is a little bit off. It's going to thread in, but it's going to be difficult. So we're going to install this next and secure it from the inside with a nut. Okay, leading on with this tough task of getting these bolts in, because this really isn't aligned with the bracket on the Jeep. This bolt, we had to basically put this socket extension into the hole, kind of pried it over a little bit, and had just enough room to thread this in. You can't push it or push it out because there's such a small tolerance on the side here. The bolt's in, we just need to install that washer and nut, and then we'll move on. But you know, so far things are not aligning very well. Kind of disappointing, but we'll get it on. Okay, we're putting in the sector shaft brace. My son's holding it up right now. Show him the bolt that's going to be put into the front of the sector shaft from the front side of it is this one, the 3/8 one. So Jacob's going to do that now. Thread that in to secure the sector shaft up there. The other bolt that's going to be going in is this one. This goes on the rear side. There's a recessed area where this cone sits into. So you thread lock these in and just leave them loose for now. All right, everything is secure right now. These are torqued. This front bolt is torqued, and the one on the rear is torqued. This was just in there to maintain alignment between the Jeep bracket and the Synergy bracket. Next, we're going to be putting this grease zerk in right there. So that's the next step. And then after the grease zerk is in, you're going to install this this nut on the bottom of the brace. Not focusing, sorry about that. With a little thread lock on it. Under the Jeep now, obviously. So everything is installed. We got the grease zerk in. We got this flathead nut that's in. As I said, everything's been torqued down. We're now going to move on to the reinstalling the track bar into the bracket right here. All right, track bar bolt has been installed and torqued down. We are all done other than greasing the bearing. What they recommend you do is give a half pump, turn the wheels lock to lock, and then another half pump, wipe off the excess, and then you're good to go. So that's the install. Right now we can't give you any indication of how it's going to work. We're going to need some time on the road. We'll take it out for a test drive in a little while, but we'll probably just post this video as is right now regarding the install. So hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We are appreciative of everyone who views the videos, and leave comments if you feel interested to.